Well, what's going on, Cam?
Doing a podcast. What's up with you?
I'm doing the same, ironically enough.
Hmm. Interesting how that works out.
Yeah. Two of us get on a call and we start talking about stuff and we record it. Just that fun.
It's a good time.
Speaking of that, podcasts, I feel like there's been some weird stuff that's happened to the idea of a podcast. I've always enjoyed the podcast where just a couple of dudes or maybe three or four guys get together. It could be girls too, it doesn't matter, but they get together and they just talk. They're friends talking, and the idea of a podcast being like you're listening in on somebody's phone call, and just
Hmm.
enjoying the conversation. What I haven't liked about the podcast, I don't know if you want to call it the general podcasts that have started getting big again, is that everybody wants to make a show or wants to do like a big grandiose. So we got to have this big opening to the show and a big closing to the show, and it's got to be like overly produced. I do produce stuff. I run filters on the show. I try to clean it up and make it sound good because it sucks when it sounds bad. But at the same time, like trying to maintain that like two dudes talking about stuff that they like feeling has always been important to me. Where a lot of these newer podcasts that are trying to emulate radio kind of irritate me.
Yeah, well, we have NPR to thank for that.
Yep. But but yeah, so I've got metal in my mouth now, which I think is exciting. I am finally at the end of my journey with my implant. So I don't know if this interests anybody on the show, you or any of the listeners, but I was pretty excited this week that I finally got my tooth. The crown was installed for my implant, and I'm now whole again, which I think is hilarious. But
Did you
but
get like a gold cap?
dude, I
You know?
totally should have if I'd have
Hmm.
thought far enough ahead. I'm a little bit more of a silver guy, but it's
Yeah, but
actually
you could then you could pull off a pirate whenever you wanted to. Arr.
but but the tooth itself is actually made out of titanium, which I thought was interesting. And then it's coated on the outside to look like a tooth. So it's coated with a colorant. And I thought that was pretty exciting, but the doc did warn me. He's like, "By the way, this tooth will now be the strongest tooth in your mouth. So if you like chomp down on a tooth, you're probably going to break it against that." So
Will it go off at metal detectors at the airport?
no, actually, titanium's non-ferrous, so it's not detectable by a metal detector.
Ah,
Yeah, it'll pick up on X-rays and stuff, but it won't pick up on a metal detector. So
gotcha.
I can't like stick stuff to it with a magnet or anything.
That'd be a fun party
You
trick.
see me smiling with the thing hanging out of my
Oh my
mouth? Yeah, no. But anyway,
god.
that was
Taking
my
people's
excitement this week.
There you go. You're just demagnetizing all of them's hotel cards.
Yeah. So what is weird though is that all the teeth on this side are still adjusting to it. So I had this done on Tuesday. We're recording on Saturday. So like I have probably three or four teeth on this side because the tooth was up in front. It's just the first tooth off center from the front two. I don't know what they're called, but it's just that tooth right there. But all these teeth along the one side of my mouth are still really compacted in, like they're still adjusting to the new tooth being there because there hasn't been one for a year now. And that tooth, the weirdest thing about that is there's obviously no nerves on that, and you don't think about that until you get it in there. I have a tooth there that I cannot feel at all, and that is the weirdest sensation to like bite down on something and like it's doing the work, but I can't feel anything. It's going to take some getting used to. So yeah, but I'm excited. That journey is over. It's been almost a year. So since my old crown broke off and I started this journey to get this implant. So
Crazy it took so long.
well, everything requires healing in between. So when we first, I don't know if I want to get into all the nitty gritty about this, but when I first broke the tooth, there was an appointment that had to be made. Or I didn't break, I broke off the crown that was on there. And so then the first thing that had to be done was the tooth had to be pulled, and then they did a bone graft so that they had something to put the implant in because the bone was thin there. So they did a bone graft. That had to heal for 3 months, and I think we didn't get the appointment in until about that fourth month. And then we came back, tested things, put the implant itself in. That had to heal for another 3 months, and we again didn't get an appointment in for probably about 4. So now you're 8 months into the process. And then that had once that implant was in, it healed. Then they had to do testing on it to make sure that it was strong enough, and then they had to put a new healing cap in. So that had to heal for a little bit. And then we get the appointment, and of course, appointments always stretch out. So, it was 10 or 11 months before we got the crown on. So, but it's done, and I'm happy.
Huzzah.
Yep. So my dentist is still bugging me about a few other teeth that I could have replaced, but I'm just looking at him like, dude, this was expensive. This is not the time to be asking me about putting more teeth in my mouth. So, but I will tell you that I thought that the experience was going to be terrible. You think that there's going to be a lot of pain involved and stuff like that, and it was actually not bad at all. Like the tooth extractions and root canals that I've had in the past have been far worse than this process. So I think it helped that it was in the front of my mouth instead of the back of my mouth too. So, but anyway. So yeah, if you're looking at getting an implant and you're like, well, it's going to hurt, it actually wasn't that terrible. So I got a good doc too. So, all right. Well, I texted you the other day because there was an exciting little bit of news that I know you've been waiting for a long time. And every time we talk about iPad, this seems to come up. And
yeah, they finally put Microsoft Publisher on the iPad.
I know, right?
I get an amen? Woo!
Man, didn't see it going that way. But coming up this Monday, it would be May 23rd. I know you're going to be doing some downloading.
Yes, sir.
So Final Cut and Logic are going to be available on the iPad.
Say it again, Mitch. Say it again.
Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro are coming to the iPad.
Okay, so I have so many thoughts. Obviously, I'm very excited because this has been on every Predictees list we've ever made. Because I was like, it's one, I'm stubborn, and two, it was just a matter of time, right? But the lack of fanfare for this, when it just a random Monday or Tuesday, here's a YouTube video. Like, what? So while I was very excited and still am, I was annoyed. I was like, this is a big deal. And you're just going to drop it on a random day in May, like 3 weeks before WWE. So, whatever. I can get over that. But it was just, I was so surprised. Like when you sent me that text message, I was like, I thought you were pranking me. It's like, there's no way this is real. They wouldn't do it this way. This is
yes, it seemed like it should have been a bigger announcement, but at the same time, they made that announcement almost 2 weeks ago. This last Tuesday, they announced a bunch of stuff that's coming to iOS 17 around accessibility. So that was interesting. And it's obvious that what they're doing is they're clearing the decks for whatever they're going to announce at WWDC, which if they took Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro on the iPad and relegated that to essentially what it would be called a
press release.
A press release. Thank you. Just imagine what's coming at WWDC.
They're bringing the Newton back. That's what. No, it's going to be the headset, right?
Right. At least
And
they think really highly of whatever they're going to be announcing at WWDC. So
and I, I'm annoyed by that because like I don't care about the headset really. I just don't, especially if it's going to be in the price range that everyone thinks it's going to be in. Like I will not own one, and I don't want half of WWDC to be about something that I don't care about. But that's my opinion on that. So
anyway, Final Cut. I'm gonna let
yes,
you talk about how excited you are, and I didn't watch the video. I know you probably watched it a half a dozen
yeah.
times, but
Um, and I listened to a few other shows and read a couple articles about people that have actually used it. Jason Snell had a helpful article on Six Colors, his website. Um, so Logic you can use on the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. You think it's the A12 or A13, I forget which one. But Final Cut requires the M1 iPad Pro because it's a more intense piece of software when it comes to the power that it needs to run because it's running video. Um, but looking at what I was able to see on the press release YouTube video, it looks to me that editing and producing a podcast on the iPad is going to be a piece of cake. Like they were all musicians and like they were playing and doing like crazy filters, and it's very tactile too. So it is designed to be touched. You can obviously use your pencil or keyboard and trackpad or whatever as well, but like it is built with touch in mind. And just being able to like to draw on the screen like volume automations or filter automations just with your pencil, like that's crazy. um and being able to just pick up a piece of a track and move it over, and so like to me it looks like podcast editing is going to be essentially simple on the iPad Pro. Obviously I haven't touched it yet. I'll have I'm waiting till Monday and I'm going to edit my other show on the iPad just to see how it goes. um and that's really all I use Logic for is podcast editing, and then occasionally recording just scratch tracks of like my guitar stuff, just so that's just so I can remember the ideas that I come up with. I'm not putting that on SoundCloud or Bandcamp or anything. Like it's just, oh, I have a really cool idea on my guitar or on my keyboard. I just want to remember it and have it for posterity. I'll record something really a scratch track into Logic just to have. I'm not doing any high production or anything like that. And then Final Cut is going to be interesting. They were one part of the video, they are able to draw with their pencil on the video and then animate and manipulate what they had drawn as part of the video, which is pretty neat. And again, all built around touch and multi-touch and gestures and stuff. It is not so the one thing, Logic you can go back and forth between the Mac and your iPad. Final Cut you can go iPad to Mac, but you can't go Mac to iPad. So if I start a Final Cut project, like all of the wedding and event videos that I've done on my Mac can't come to my iPad. But if I start my project on my iPad, just get everything imported, get the basic structure gone, then I can take it, put it on my Mac, and finish the project that way. So that's one restriction, and it is their Final Cut on the iPad has less features than the Mac version, which to me makes sense, right? And it's also day one, and so people, third parties, will be able to make their plugins available for Logic and Final Cut on the iPad. They just have to, do the right things. Will iZotope do it? Probably not, because it takes them 4 years to like it. Anyways, they make great products. Their adoption of new software is so slow. Like they barely get it out before the next OS is out. Like it's just in whatever, it's their company. They run it how they want. But their stuff is really good. So that's just, you got to play the game with them if you want to use their stuff. And I know you really, I like their stuff. You like their stuff. It's just their adoption rate is very slow. So anyways, that's my initial thoughts. I'm really excited. The other thing, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is it's subscription based, which I was bummed about, because one of the reasons that I use Final Cut and Logic instead of Audition and Premiere is I don't want another subscription in my life. Let me pay you the money, have it be done, and then in like 3 or 4 years, I'll pay you again when a new version comes out, because that's less money than paying what it costs for Audition and Premiere month to month. So that being said, the pro to it being a subscription is that anybody can try these out. What once was a high $200 for Logic, $300 for Final Cut, now someone can try one for a 1 month free trial, or $4.99 a month, or $50 a year, right? So it opens these why am I saying quotes? They are these pro level software to people that otherwise didn't want to pay $200 or $300 to try something out, right? So this opens up, and with them being on iPads, right? Especially Logic not being tied to the iPad Pro, but also being available on the iPad Air, kids and students can try this out that otherwise wouldn't be able to because of the initial cost of it on the Mac. So like I'm annoyed by it because I would rather just pay $100, right? And just have it be done. But I also know the next versions of Logic and Final Cut will probably switch to subscription. You know what I mean? When they release the next versions of it on the Mac. So, yeah, I'm gonna do the 1 month free trial, and we'll see what happens from there. I'll probably if I do any of them, I'll probably for sure do Logic. I just don't use Final Cut enough to justify the monthly or the yearly subscription on my iPad, especially since it's not comparable in every way to the Mac version, right? And when I'm doing videos, I'm doing them for clients. So businesses, weddings, organizations, that sort of stuff. And I need the full thing. But if I can edit the podcasts on an iPad, I do enough of that it would justify the cost, I think. But nonetheless, they're here. I'm excited. I've been talking for 12 minutes straight. Mitch, what do you think? Thank you for letting me rant.
No, I wanted to get all your feelings out. I had about three different points in there that I wanted to interrupt you with something, and I thought, nope, let the guy talk, because you've been waiting for this. So first off, my first thought was aren't you glad you got the M1 iPad now?
Well, yeah, just another feather in its cap, right?
Yeah. So as far as the subscription-based stuff, I think the visceral reaction that a lot of people have is that everything is subscription now. So
it's subscription fatigue, man.
Yeah, it's subscription fatigue. That's exactly what I was going to say. And I think that's more the issue than anything. If you really do the math, and someone was talking about this on one of the podcasts that I listened to the other day, that if you do the math, Final Cut would get updated roughly every 6 years. That was the cycle that if you go back and look in history, that's about how often it was getting updated. And each time updated to a brand new version of it that changed things fundamentally. And at that point, they would charge another $300 for it. So if you do the math, $50 a year for 6 years works out to be $300. So you're actually, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, Cam, you don't need it every month, so just put $5 into it on the months that you do need it. And that way you're not, it's nice to have, drop the $300 now and never have to think about it again. But really when it comes down to it from an economic standpoint, if I want to try Logic, let's say it actually works on my iPad mini and I want to try it, I have edited on this before with Ferrite, and it's not a terrible experience as long as you don't have like a a ton of different tracks to work on. Usually it's 1 or 2 tracks that I'm editing in, but it wasn't terrible. It's a smaller screen, so whatever. But I'd be interested to try Logic and see, how slick is it for editing podcasts and stuff like that, and how fast can I get my muscle memory to transfer over to that and make it work. Right now, my muscle memory in Adobe Audition is so locked in that it's almost like don't even think about it anymore. It's just, if I'm editing our podcast, I'm selecting a section, Shift Command Delete, edit a section, Shift Command Delete. And I'm just going through and cutting things out and making edits, and I can do that pretty efficiently. With I don't have that muscle memory with Logic on the Mac right now. So for me to switch over to Logic on an iPad would probably be a little bit more cumbersome. That, and I use if I'm grabbing for something to do anything on, I'm grabbing my MacBook Air, to do it. Typically, I'm not grabbing my iPad, and unless my MacBook Air is in the basement on the charger, I'm down in the studio here on the charger, and all I have handy is my iPad, then I'll grab it and, work my way around doing whatever it is that I was going to try and do. But otherwise, my MacBook Air has been my go-to. This thing is so awesome anyway. But
Yeah.
it's my go-to for just about everything that I'm doing now. So, but I the subscription price, I'm like, okay, people are going to have a problem with this when I heard about that. But at the same time, I think from an economic standpoint, I think it can make more sense for people who aren't using it all the time or don't need it all the time. So that would be my argument for it. Against it, yeah, it's just the subscription fatigue. Like, everything's got a subscription. I have a budget for stuff that I subscribe to, and that budget is pretty close to its ceiling right now. So it's not something that I can just throw more money at something else. So
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm going through and I'm canceling a ton of my subscriptions. Well, mainly because it's stuff that I don't use that I just threw money at. I was like, oh, that's fun. I'll use that. And then after, 4 months, I don't touch it, but I paid for the year because you saved 2 months. Right. But, I mean, I'm moving and my rent and cost of living is going up significantly. So I'm cutting like everything.
Yeah.
To try and save money. So
a pro tip that I heard Alex Lindsay say on MacBreak Weekly that I have adopted to a certain degree is when you subscribe to a new thing, go into your subscriptions and cancel it right away. And that way you get that month to use it. And at the end of the month, it cancels, it expires. And then in the following month, if you miss it and you're like, oh, shoot, oh yeah, that's right, that expired, I need to go back and do it, then go back and subscribe to it. But if the subscription ends and you don't even notice, then
you save yourself some money.
Then you save yourself some money. Yep.
That's smart.
Yeah. Because he subscribes to a lot of stuff. So so he uses that quite often to make sure that he's not paying for a stupid amount of stuff that he doesn't use. But anyway, I'm excited you got it.
Give me those Predictees points.
I had it in the back of my head to predict against it for WWDC, so I'm glad it came out early. But did you have that in your Predictees?
Oh yeah, it's in my Predictees every time.
Mini gets an update.
If I don't have it in my annual Predictees, I'm going to be so angry.
I don't see it. I don't think you
Maybe.
did.
Oh, I always did it at the events.
Yeah, it was always an event thing that you did it.
Ah! Apple, why you got to do me like that?
Right?
Come on.
So speaking of the Predictees, that will be our next episode. Is our Predictees
right, well,
for
then
WWDC.
my WWDC Predictee is that Final Cut of Logic will not be announced for the iPad at WWDC.
I disqualify that one.
Son of a gun! I'm so annoyed. What? Sorry for the yelling.
Oh, it's all right. People like that. Can I tell you? Every so often, my wife will give me the comment, "Man, I love it when Cam gets fired up about stuff."
I'm so annoyed right now. All my happiness, you just drained it from me. Just want to cry.
It's okay, buddy.
Uh,
All right. Well, let's get into our main topic for today. We're going to be talking about our wish lists for iOS and iPadOS. All right. So we want, what do we want from iOS and iPadOS this year? So maybe we can start out with like iOS specific stuff.
I want Final Cut and Logic on my phone.
Oh, one thing I just thought of that was one of the things I wanted to discuss about Final Cut in particular is that one of the things that they had discussed is that Final Cut for the iPad is a possible precursor to a new version for the Mac. So they may do another Final Cut Pro 10 type update where they strip out some features and then build it back up to be completely compatible with the iPad version. So
Yeah, well, the ever converging Mac OS and iPad OS, right? That they said they would never do. That just gets closer and closer to happening every time they make updates.
I'm waiting for the iPad or the iPad MacBook fusion.
And they're just gonna call it Apple OS, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I think there's been rumor about an all touch based laptop for years. So it would be it would just be like basically a foldable MacBook where you just fold it and open it up, and it's just one complete screen from the where the screen would normally be, and then the keyboard and trackpad would be a screen as well.
What?
Yeah, there's been like a pretty weak rumor around that for a lot of years.
Oh my gosh, the nightmares, all the fingerprints is like making my skin crawl right now.
But I think it'd be interesting just to see, how the market would handle it, because imagine your keyboard changes based on the different things that you're doing and stuff. I think that'd be interesting. Anyway,
then you could have like wheel controls or faders, depending on what you're.
What if you use your right hand for the trackpad all the time and just decide you want your trackpad over onto the right side?
Yeah, the right corner,
and maybe add some buttons on the left side.
All right, I'm getting some Minority Report, vibes with the manipulating of the screens.
Yeah, it could be really cool. But anyway,
yes,
iOS and iPadOS. Let's start with iOS. Like, what are some of the things that we would like to see that are on our wish list for this year?
Oh boy. I would like to be able, as I've said before, to the app library. I want to be able to control the order those folders are in.
I can get behind that.
That's what I want. I want to be able to name them what I want, because how they get organized in here doesn't always make sense to me. Like, there's some apps that I have that I don't know what folder they're in, so I just have to search for them, because the ones that I go to that I think it should be in, it's not in. It's buried in some other folder.
Yeah.
And so for someone like me who uses one home screen and then uses shortcuts or search for everything else, I would like App Library to be something that I can customize and control so that I know where my apps are.
Yeah,
so that's my first request, Mitch.
All they would need is you have your list of settings you have your list in settings of all your apps. So originally I think they intended for every app to have their settings in settings instead of in their app, which sucks. But I think that was the purpose for what they were doing. But what if they added something in there that said, hey, you know what? I don't like that this particular app is in this folder, so you can change the folder preference.
Yes,
so
that would be very nice.
We can put our podcast apps into entertainment. instead of information and finance or whatever it is.
It's information and reading.
Information and reading is it?
Yeah,
The
and what's
podcast
funny
app
is my
there, isn't it?
podcast app is not in there.
No,
Mine is in.
for some reason I thought it was not in entertainment though. And it does depend on how many apps.
Mine's
have.
in productivity and finance. That's where Snipped is. Productivity and finance.
Yeah, it does depend on how many apps you have on your phone too, as far as how it divides them up. I have noticed that. Oh, where is Pocket Cast? Oh, Pocket Cast is in information and reading on my iPad.
Yeah. Silly.
But yeah, I noticed on my iPad it categorizes it differently because I have far less apps on there than I do on my phone. So, all right. So I'm going to float something out there that I think we could talk about a little bit. But I really want to see them do side loading on the iPhone and iPad. And this is not for any kind of like, anti-competitive or BS. You know, you let us do. I mean, it's part of the Mac experience to be able to download any app that you want to download, no matter what it does to the system. And yeah, you get a warning that says, if it's from an untrusted source, that you could damage it. And then there's a little bit of like hoops you have to jump through if you're gonna install that item. But it doesn't. It's not allowed in the the App Store, the Mac App Store. But you still, like, if they brought Gatekeeper to the iPad and iOS and said, hey, what's the level of risk that you want? Everybody's default is what it is right now.
Yeah, make it an opt-in to have.
Yeah, so you would have to go in there and say, I want to download from untrusted sources. And then you take it on yourself. And they could even, the Genius Bars could even look at it and say, hey, if you've clicked that, there's a certain amount of support that we can't offer you.
Yeah.
Because you've clicked something that puts your phone in harm. So, I mean, it is whatever they decided to do with that. But I think they need to allow that kind of stuff going forward, because I think they're going to get legislative pressure to do this anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm Apple, I'm not doing it until that happens, because the App Store is a cash cow. They make so much money from that 30% cut that they get.
But when you look at, so on Android, you can do it now. But the Google Play Store and the trusted stores on whatever device that you have are where everybody goes to download the apps.
Right. I'm not
running into
with
a lot of side loading.
I'm just saying I wouldn't make it an option until I was forced to do so.
Yeah.
While they're not going to lose all the App Store revenue, they're going to lose some, right? And so why lose that money, even though they have more money than anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they going to willingly give up profit until they're forced to do it? You know what I mean? Yeah. So will it happen? Yeah, I think it will. But I just don't think they're going to do it, until they have to. And then of course they'll spin it that they're doing it out of, the goodness of their heart, because they have the courage to do that, So,
well, either that or they'll spin it and say, hey, they made us do it, and I think it's all going to depend, because Europe is going to be requiring it long before the US would. So it's going to be a nice test market to see how does this affect the app revenue? How does it affect the safety of the phone? If it ends up being nothing, it ends up not making a whole lot of difference, then I see them rolling it out and just saying, fine, we don't want to deal with the legal issues anymore.
Well, yeah, and I would be interested too to see the developers' response.
Yeah.
Like, is there going to be an exodus so the developers can get 100% of the commission? Because like sometimes with Mac apps, you can get it on the Mac App Store, and you can also get it from the developer's website, and it's up to the user. They have it in both places. Mm-hmm. And so I would venture to guess that developers would do the similar thing on iOS, but I also know that there's certain apps on the Mac that you can only get straight from the developer. They're not in the Mac App Store because they don't meet the Mac App Store regulations. The
Right.
developer wants a full cut. And so I would just be really interested to see the fallout of who stays App Store only, who's a hybrid, and who is, developer website only, and how that shakes out, and how that changes pricing and subscription models, and all. Like, it's going to be a big shakeup. Apple's going to be fine, but I'm just really curious what that would look like as from a user's perspective of the apps that I use and I love, and what the developer's going to choose to do with those apps once or if this change happens. That to me is going to be really interesting to see.
Agreed.
I think it'll be fun. We can have if this happens, we need to have a Predictees episode about what our favorite apps are going to do, because that's just so nerdy.
I honestly think that there's no reason for a lot of the developers to pull their apps from the App Store. At least a lot of the ones that I use, because most of them, seem to be relatively happy and making money there. I think it's the smaller developers that need that 30%. I don't know. I believe Marco talked about this a little bit, and they asked him if he would do that, if he would pull it from the App Store. And he didn't. If my memory serves, he didn't sound like he would pull it from the App Store. He might offer something on his website, but he wouldn't pull it from the App Store.
So I think so. I understand that reasoning, but I also think that the opposite could be true too. The smaller developers need the App Store for exposure, right? And the bigger developers, like, apps that have been around forever, right? Fantastical things, like well-established, iconic apps already have the exposure, already have market share, could then be less dependent upon the App Store for exposure. But I mean, it's a hard choice, right? And that's why I think there might be those hybrid approaches where you get one version of the app on the App Store, and then maybe you get a premium version of the app from the developer that has extra features or whatever. That way they're sort of trying to mitigate losses, but also taking advantage of that extra 30% of revenue that could then help them further furnish those apps with better premium features. So like I said, I'm way more interested in this than I thought I was going to be. Let's put it that way. I think it's going to be really cool to see the different approaches and what works and what doesn't, and how people react. And because it's a fundamental shift to, I mean, in a core way, to the experience that we would get on our phones and our tablets. So
they're coming along with that is the idea of third-party app stores that you would have someone like, I think SetApp is a really, really good, would be interesting to see what they would do, because, you pay for the subscription for SetApp, and right now you have to scan a QR code on the website, and it takes you to the app, and then you install the app, and then you go back and scan a second QR code in the App Store to initialize the app and basically say that you pay for the subscription, and then you get the app. I did that with, is it Paste that I have? It's a clipboard manager. And so that process is interesting, whereas they could just have a third-party app store that you download from their website onto your device, and then you just install the apps from there. So I know that EA, well, that was one of their contentions, is they wanted not EA, Epic. Yep. They wanted their own app store to sell their games out of. And so doing it from a sideloading standpoint, by the way, they tried doing sideloading for what am I trying to think of? For Fortnite on Android, and it failed miserably. They couldn't get people to download it directly from the website. They had to put it back in the Google Play Store to get people to download it again.
Really?
Yeah. So that's where I'm talking about. Like, when you start talking about allowing people to download stuff from your websites versus from the App Store, people just don't do it, or not as many people do it.
That's crazy to me. They couldn't get Fortnite to work.
Yeah.
On a side load, or not work, but like get people to do it. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Everyone plays that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but people wouldn't go to their website and download it.
That's crazy.
But I think it's you and I know, but if we went to, like, even I talked to my wife, or I talked to my parents who have iPhones, and tell them, oh, you can get that, but you got to go over to this website and download this other app store, and then install that on your device, and then go into that app store and get the app. And they're like, well, that sounds really complicated. I'm just going to go to the app store and get something else. And so I think for us, we understand, how this works, but for normal people who don't do this stuff and don't have the knowledge that we have, I think it's the path of least resistance to just go to the app store and download what they want from there.
Yeah. I see.
The other part of it that excites me is the idea of having emulators on our devices. Because how cool would it be to have like an arcade emulator, or an SNES or NES emulator,
or Game Boy, man?
Yeah, Game Boy. I think it would be really fun to have that kind of stuff on there, but you download the emulator and then you got to get the ROMs for the emulator, and normal people aren't going to do that. So, but unless they find a way to make it way more simple, the people just aren't going to do that. So,
yeah.
All right. There is one other thing that I have on my list here that I think transcends iOS, iPadOS, macOS, maybe even watchOS. I don't know. But have you heard the rumors about a journaling app that Apple's working on?
No, are they trying to put Day One out of business?
So this has been something that has been talked about a little bit on a couple of podcasts that I listen to. I want to say MacBreak Weekly talked about it quite a bit, and they were talking about the possibilities of an app like this. That it's not just about you go into an app and you make some notes about your day, or you write something about how the day is going, or how you feel. I think it definitely is going to have some play into a mental health story that they want to tell. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to predict something for, and it says, don't steal my pick, but that this is going to be a focus at WWDC is mental health, because I think it's the next big thing for them to tackle. And I think a journaling app where even if you just go in there and they give you 5 emojis to choose from, and you pick the emoji that best explains your mood, at that time, so you can just kind of keep track of how you've been feeling and how things have been going. But I think the journaling app could have wider ramifications. Let's say you can connect it to health and have all of your health data kind of comes into that, so that, hey, I wasn't feeling really good this day, and then I look and, well, my heart rate was down, and this thing wasn't right, and I didn't exercise that day. Maybe exercise is connected to my mental health too, and just having those kinds of things all connected together. Maybe you'll be able to connect it to photos and have, your photos automatically imported into the journal. So you can look at, hey, what photos did I take on that day? And just have, like, all the stuff that's on our devices could be funneled into this journaling app and split up by day. And I'm excited about this possibility. There would be a lot of permissions that you'd have to give to connect all this stuff. But I'm sure there would be a story about how everything's on device, and nothing gets uploaded to the cloud, and whatever does get uploaded to the cloud is hashed in some way, so that it's not sending your data to the cloud. It's more setting like these things, like these hashes for whatever your data was, so that your device knows or whatever. I'm sure there's going to be some way that they can make that private.
Yeah,
But
I had not heard these rumors,
mhm,
but as you're saying this, I'm kind of surprised it doesn't exist already.
yeah, that's what I want to see. What I'm afraid we're going to see is a journaling app where you just open up and there's a page to write something, and or maybe just the emoji thing where you tap an emoji to say this is how I feel today, and then I have the ability to put some text in there. To me, that's been done.
Yeah.
And I know Apple doesn't necessarily try to Sherlock a lot of people, but they tend to put an app in the App Store, and then that's an opportunity for day one. It's not putting day one out of business. A lot of times, what Apple will do a simple version of it, like take Notes for example. They have Notes, but we still use stuff like Notion and Obsidian and stuff like that on our devices because the features are more full. They do it the way we want it to be done. Notes is very specific about how you can do it and doesn't offer a lot of the stuff that these other
Yeah, and Apple's
things do.
aiming for with their non-pro apps is aiming for a wide chunk of the audience. They're not looking for early adopters or bleeding edge technologists, right? They're looking for the masses, which is why Notes is used by a gajillion people, and people like you and I use Notion and Obsidian because we want more, and there are apps for us. But I was going to say something, and
Okay,
I have
but real
now.
quick, brace yourself for this comment. Apple does not design this stuff for nerds.
Yeah, I know.
And I think too oftentimes I listen to a lot of podcasts that talk about this stuff, and they act like this stuff is being designed for all of us, nut jobs that want to get into all the nitty gritty parts of this, and they don't. They make this stuff for the masses. They make this stuff for consumers. And so, when we don't have the features, when we start using words like Sherlocking and trying to put people out of business and stuff like that, they're making, there's still a whole market for the nerds,
Yeah.
And so, and I'm a card carrying nerd. So, because I want more than that.
Yeah.
So,
yep. So yeah, it'll be. I mean, because I honestly I haven't used Day One in like 3 or 4 years, so I'm not even sure what sort of integrations that app has with your health data and your pictures. For all I know, they could already be doing that. I just haven't used it, but I know that for a long time was or still is like the premier journaling app. I used it for a long time.
It might be worth downloading again to check it out.
Yeah, just to see what the feature set is. But yeah, so that's why. I mean, I made that comment half in jest, because, like I said, it's been 3 or 4 years since I've used Day One.
But you're not the first. You're not the first person to say stuff like that, and that's
I know.
And it's not. You may have said it in jest, but there's other people that are freaking out, like Apple's trying to eat somebody's lunch, and they're getting all uptight about it. So
yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
So that's all I really had on my list for iOS and iPadOS. I mean,
I have one more.
I was going to say you got what you wanted. So
no, I got one of the things I wanted. Mitch.
So okay,
I have other things that I want. So with the addition of Final Cut and Logic, I am very interested and intrigued to see what Apple is going to do with multiple audio sources, specifically on the iPad.
Yeah.
Because right now you have one audio source. If you're listening to a song and then you go over to YouTube and push it, you can't have two at the same time. It doesn't work. You can't pick and choose your inputs and your outputs the way that you can on the Mac, right? And so I'm interested to see what changes with the way the audio is routed, is Do we get options to change the way that it's routed? Can an iPad become a podcasting machine where I'm talking into a microphone, I'm hearing your audio from Zoom, I'm recording it to a hard drive, a separate hard, like, is that a thing that's going to happen? I don't know. Now, do you technically need multiple audios in and audios out to edit in Logic or Final Cut? No. But that feels like the next logical step, right? Is now that we have these pro video and audio editing programs, is the hardware or the firmware going to change to the point that it will allow something like that to happen? So I don't think it's going to happen at WWDC. It might be part of iOS 17, or it might wait till 18. Like, I don't know if I don't know the internals of the iPad Pro well enough to understand. Is it even possible on the current models, or do we have to have a new model that has extra bits of hardware in there? I don't know it from a technical standpoint. But I think that's the next shoe to drop on the iPad Pros as far as, audio stuff is concerned, is that has to change in order for it, to just make the next step to being a functional audio production machine. So that's one thought. The other thought is Stage Manager and external display support for the iPad. Like, come on. we had a big jump last year with Stage Manager, with the fact that I can have an external display and my iPad together at the same time. It's not perfect. There still needs to be maturity and stability improvements, and I need to be able to control my apps better. Stage Manager's too opinionated on where they go, and we've talked about this. Every tech podcast has talked about this. I need to be able to choose more efficiently when I open an app. Does it open by itself, or does it open in my current stage? Like, just basic, whether it's, we talked about keyboard short hotkeys, or shift and click, or right click, or like, it just needs to be tighter. It needs to be more mature. It needs to be more efficient. And Federico has talked a ton about on Connected about he wants clamshell mode for the iPad, which I think is hysterical.
Yeah.
Because right now the iPad is the main screen and the external display is the secondary screen, and he just wants the secondary or the external monitor to be the main one, which is weird to me, but that's his thought. I just want better external display support, period. So anyways, those are the two main ones, in addition to, the other stuff that we talked about that seem to me to be the next logical steps for improvement in some newer features. And so I hope iOS 17 brings, or iPad OS 17, I'm sorry, brings those changes, because it would really just big quality of life improvements for using the iPad more regularly. So I'm sure I have other thoughts, but they are escaping me at the moment.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting if they brought something like the dynamic island to the to other devices. I know there's the joke was a dynamic peninsula, but
it just hangs down from the top of the screen.
But I think it would be nice to have the live activities at the top of the screen, not taking up the whole thing, but just kind of popping down a little bit or popping out the sides of the notch. But I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, I have, what is the 14 the one that has the dynamic island?
Yeah, the 14 Pro.
Okay, yeah. So I have the 13 Pro, and I don't know anyone that has a 14 Pro. So, like, I've never seen the dynamic island in real life.
So one of the guys that I work with just got it, and I happened to stop over by the vending machine. Our vending machines take Apple Pay. So, um, so he walked up to it and he was paying for his stuff out of Apple Cash, which was kind of nice. It's a nice feature to have because
Yeah.
what else to use your Apple Cash for? So he just walked up and he tapped it on the vending machine and I saw the little bubble come down out of the dynamic island, that it was scanning his face, and then it popped back up in there. And I thought there was a really slick little UI element. So, but what I would like to see is, if I was following a baseball game or something, being able to have the scores kind of pop out from the sides of the notch or something, whatever, so that's always there instead of having to go back to the lock screen to see it. So, but minor issue. I'm probably going to be upgrading this year anyway, so I will have an island eventually. I will own my island.
No man is an island, though, Mitch.
No, but I can own my island.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I think that's a lot of fun stuff. That we're definitely going to get all of it, right? Because that's how these things work.
All right. Do you want to move on then? I think we're approaching an hour anyway, so
Yes.
let's talk about what's delighting us today. Well, I got a new game this week.
Parcheesi, the game of
Parcheesi?
chance.
No. I should tell you the how I got the game. But first off, it's the new Legend of Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom, which is the successor to Breath of the Wild, which was a huge game. I played that game I probably put 200 hours into that game.
Oh my!
It was so good. Well, the thing of it is
it's like 8 full days.
You have no, until you get into a game like this, you have no idea. Just open world game like that, there's so much to do. And
games like that are not for me.
I've already put. I'm guessing I probably put almost 10 hours into that game this last week, and it's like I haven't even scratched the surface. Like I'm on the first quest right now, first or second quest that I've been doing, and I'm approaching the point where I probably am going to be able to finish this part of this quest and move on to the next part. But it's the major storyline. Everything that you do is really big. Like it's just a list of different things you have to do to get to the main goal in the main quest. Now there's side quests. There's all kinds of little things you can do here and there.
Do your main quests know about your side quests though? Because that could get you in trouble.
I think they do. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they do. So, but not to mention the game is gorgeous. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I remember seeing like some of the trailers.
Yeah, but it's the game is just beautiful. To be able to get up on top of a mountain peak and you can see almost the entire map, and it's just beautiful to be able to get up get up there and just look around because there's so much detail and so much cool stuff. There's lots of little gameplay elements that work into this. One thing that I'm doing this time that I didn't do last time, and because I learned not to, is take on every enemy. Because every so often you have the blood moon, and what the blood moon will do on this particular night is it actually puts all those enemies back where they were, but it doesn't just put them back, it puts them back stronger. So if you use stealth to get around any enemy camps or anything like that, you're actually rewarded for that because the enemies don't get stronger. They stay weaker. And right now, because I'm just starting the game, I'm pretty weak myself, so I can't be going in taking on enemies all the time because I have to build my strength up to be able to take on these enemies. So using a lot of stealth right now actually is paying off for me because I'm getting through more of the game without dying so often. I'm already dying like all the time, but this morning I was working on I'm working my way up to this ship that's up in the sky, and I'm sure I'm going to have to battle something up there to solve this problem for this part of the map, for this community of beings. I'm not going to get into the whole storyline, but I have to get way up in the clouds to get to do this thing. Well, it takes going from platform to platform to platform to platform, and like making my way up into this cloud slowly to get to this place. And in doing so, I'm I've fallen off these platforms numerous times. Thankfully, it saves my progress as I'm going. But I fall off these platforms all the time and die. There's enemies up there that kill me pretty regularly. There was one spot in the map this morning that I bet you I died like 10 or 15 times before I finally got through it. And so but it's challenging in a way that engages you. There's really interesting and cool puzzles to solve as you go. There's shrines that you unlock, and it create what's nice about them is you can get different things from inside the shrines that you need. You get an orb of light from it. There's a part of the storyline. I'm not going to go into the whole storyline, but when you get these orbs of light, they help to drive out some of the evil that's in you, and there's a eventual conclusion to that story, I'm sure. But it also creates a travel point, so you can go into the map and just jump to different places on the map as opposed to having to run everywhere or ride a horse everywhere. Yeah, so but what is cool is if you have played Breath of the Wild, any horses that you tamed in Breath of the Wild, as long as you have your save point on your device, on your Switch, you can access those horses in the new game. So I don't have to go through and tame any horses, which, depending on the horse, can be quite difficult. So the wilder the horse, the more useful they are because they run faster, they're stronger, but they're harder to tame. So, but anyway, but I'm really enjoying the game. I'm really getting into it again. We usually start recording at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I told my wife at like 9 o'clock. I says at 9:30 I'm going to hang this up and I'll go set up for our call. I think it was 9:45, and it was only because if I don't get down there right now, I'm not going to be ready when he logs in. So, but it was cool. I'm really enjoying that game. It's delighting me a lot.
Good.
Oh, and I was going to tell you how I bought the game. So up until, let's see, I think actually today is the last day that they're offering this deal. If you take 2 eligible Switch games into GameStop and trade them in for Tears of the Kingdom, you get $50 towards Tears of the Kingdom. And so I paid $20 for the new game.
Nice.
Yeah, so but yeah, so I'm super excited. I'm having a lot of fun playing it. It has been the stress reliever that I've needed recently. So it's been good.
And at $20 too.
Yeah,
nice.
Didn't cost me that much. It cost me 2 games and $20.
Cool.
All right. Well, what's delighting you today, Cam?
Well, I think I've talked about this before, but I'm gonna talk about it again because it's still delighting me. My Solo Stove fire pit. I'm like, I think 4 out of the last 6 nights, I just sat out by the fire. You know, had a beverage, listened to a podcast or music or audiobook, and just enjoyed the noise canceling of my headphones.
Yep.
And just the fire. I think fire is beautiful and I enjoy it. I like the way it smells. I like the crackling of the wood and the warmth, and it's just relaxing and peaceful. And it's not too hot here yet, so the evenings are like in the 50s, so it's like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be out there in, just like jeans and a t-shirt. The fire keeps you perfectly warm. But there's a nice kind of like coolness to the air. It's springtime and it's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy a fire and just kind of winding down at the end of the day
So
around it. And
we
it's
should mention the benefit of the solo stove. Why would we use that instead of something else?
because theoretically it's smokeless, and instead of being smokeless one word, it should just say smoke less. There's just less smoke.
Okay.
Now, if you use like kiln dried hardwood,
Mm-hmm.
once you get it going, there really is barely any smoke,
Mm-hmm.
because the kiln drying takes all the moisture out of the wood, and that's what causes the smoke. And then the hardwood burns really hot and really long. But as you get it started, before it gets up to temperature and all that sort of stuff, there is smoke. Because oftentimes kindling, I'm just picking up twigs and branches, from trees and using that to get it going. But yeah, once you get the thing going, you don't have to like do the thing where you're just walking around the fire trying to avoid all the smoke.
Yeah. Because no matter where you sit, it attracts.
It follows
to
you. Yeah. And the other thing too that's really just what helps there be a lot less smoke, aside from the type of wood you use, is it has that ring of holes at the top that draws in air from the bottom, that heats it up, and then it shoots out the top. And that extra hot air, they call it secondary burn, it looks like flamethrowers coming out of the top. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
But that also helps reduce a lot of the smoke, because it's reintroducing more fire at the top to burn off a lot of that stuff. So it's another way that it helps, reduce the smoke. But yeah, it's just a lovely little thing, and I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to clean. Doesn't weigh very much. So it's and it's like self-contained too. So like I don't have to sit out there and wait for all of the embers to die. Like once the flame has stopped and it's just the coals, I can just let that burn all night, and it's not going to go anywhere because the wind can't blow it anywhere because it's 2 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then in the morning I come out and everything is burned down to white ash, and then I just empty the tray and I'm good to go the next day. So it's very nice. And because there's the Ranger, the Bonfire, and the Yukon are the 3 main ones. I have the Bonfire, and I could easily put it in my trunk and take it to someone's house and have a bonfire. You know what I mean? Like it's, anyways, I enjoy it. It's peaceful. I think it's just something that is good for me to help me kind of wind down and reflect and just have some peace and some alone time.
Yeah.
And sometimes me and my daughter read books out there, and she likes doing that. So,
and I asked because it is a little pricier than if you just bought like a metal pan to put your
I bought mine.
So
I bought mine on discount. I would not have paid full price for it.
Yeah, so it is rather pricey, but I want to say I've seen prices in the $300 and $400 for some of them.
Yeah, I did not pay that much for it whatsoever. I think I got mine like 30 or 40% off, and that's the only reason I did it.
Just want to look it up here real quick. So from the official website, oh, I just had prices here. Why did I? All right, shop now. So the bonfire that you've got lists for $399, and it's on sale for It's on sale for $249 on the website right now.
Yeah, I think I paid I think I did the $250.
Yeah,
which is still expensive, but I use it a ton, and as long as I, take care of it, it's going to last me for a really, 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 really long time.
Yeah. So. And it looks like they've got some accessories and stuff here too.
The accessories are so expensive.
Yeah, no, for real. The let's see, the Bonfire Ultimate Bundle retails for $1,084, and it is on sale. Is it on sale for $554.99 right now?
So
Actually, that's a screaming
it's half
deal.
off.
That's screaming deal.
Well, it's only a screaming deal because they say it retails for $1,000. They're still making profit on that. There's no way it's 50% off in all reality. Like that's the thing with Solo Stove is there's always sales. Like there's some companies that never do sales.
Yeah.
Solo Stove always has a sale going.
Mm-hmm.
So like it never retails for that much. Like maybe like 2 months out of the year it won't be on sale. But the rest of the year, it's at some varying point. Like I get weekly emails. It's like, oh, this week, this is 40% off. And then, oh, this week, this, it's just constant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one way of doing business, right? You make people think they're getting a deal when they're really not.
So what's in the accessory pack, you might ask?
Yes, I do want to know.
Let's see if I can get a list of everything. So it comes, this particular one is for the Bonfire. That is $554, and it comes with the Bonfire. It comes with a new removable base plate and ash pan, a Bonfire shield, the stand, a lid, what they call a shelter, which is basically a cover for it.
Yep.
It comes with a handle. Fire pit tools, so there's like a tongs.
It's a poker and a
poker.
Yeah.
And then what they call sticks, which are essentially like kebab sticks or like for roasting marshmallows or something like that. And then it comes with a free carrying case. A free carrying case. So
I have the poker and the tongs.
Mm-hmm.
None of that other stuff you need.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
And it must, if you have this, does it get hot on the bottom?
No.
It doesn't look like it does because they've got it sitting right on composite lumber in one of the pictures here.
Yeah, well, they tell you just because legally they probably have to not to put it on flammable surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
But I have mine sitting on 4 bricks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have the stand, and then I just have it on, and I can, during a raging fire, I can slide my hand under the fire pit in between the bricks, and the concrete is not even a single degree warmer than outside. I mean,
it makes sense because hot air rises. If it's not sitting right on that, then it shouldn't get hot.
Well, and even in the Bonfire itself, there's the intake holes on the bottom, and so there's a gap between the actual bottom of the fire pit, like on the outside, and then the bottom of the fire pit on the inside. There's an air gap there, and then on top of that, you've got the removable pan, and on top of that, you've got the tray. So there's some decent room between where the fire is and the actual outside bottom of it. But yeah, they say don't put it on flammable material, which makes sense because they don't want you to sue them because it burns your patio table down.
Yeah, the Yukon Ultimate Bundle is retails for $16.19 or $16.20 essentially.
Spending that much money on this stuff?
And then it's on sale for $909.
That's stupid. That is so much money.
That is a lot of money. Well, I officially want one of these. I'm not going to be able to purchase one anytime soon, but we do, the store that I work for, we actually do carry some knockoff versions of these.
I was going to say, there are other companies out there that are in competition with Solo Stove.
Yeah. But again, I don't know how good they are, but they are available out there. So, all right. Anyway, anything else that we wanted to discuss on the show today?
Not that I can think of.
I know we have thoughts about what we'd like to do for WWDC that we're batting around. We cannot record the weekend right before WWDC, so we're working out something for that right now. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have that episode out early anyway. Just because if we recorded at a normal time, I'd be posting it the night before. So, and that would be our Predictees episode. So maybe getting that out a little earlier would be a good thing.
Agreed.
But we'll see. We'll get that together. We'll get that planned. And do we want to talk about why we've got some question about what we're doing?
Oh, I'm moving, and that just ruins everything because
we don't know when we're
move
going to
the
have
stuff.
internet.
You've got to reset up my internet. Like, yeah, just all the things that go into moving house, right? It takes longer. There's always something that comes up, yada yada yada.
If I had my way, what we would do is we would have the Predictees episode roughly, like, say, do it next weekend, so that it's ready to go. We can have it out a week before. Then we would do something special for WWDC. So maybe do like a watch along type, maybe live stream a watch along or record it. So you and I would be watching the event and commenting on it as it happens, and then do like a wrap up at some point. But I don't know. We could put out a ton of content around it if we had the time to do it, but that all depends.
Someone's got to move at the wrong time.
Well, and I took the week off just because I needed a vacation, really, and that seemed like the week to do it. So because I could spend more time with the WWDC stuff. My wife has got a big event coming up that weekend, so it'll give me some time to help her out preparing for that and stuff like that, and plenty of time to relax and maybe
play Zelda. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and much to my dismay, the church is getting away from using Macs, and they bought me a PC. By the way, I don't understand what's going on with this. They bought me a PC to replace one of our iMacs, and this thing is massive. They built it. They had somebody build it, which I've got questions. But the only thing I told them I wanted was 4 HDMI ports coming out of this computer. And I don't know if I've got that or not. I have to look. But there was some question about whether or not we were going to need to use adapters, like a USB-C to HDMI adapter for some of the stuff. But essentially, we have 3 monitors that I've got to send video signals to. And I wanted a 4th to send that to the live stream, so I have options for tying that computer in with my live stream computer. But everything that machine does, I can do with a Mac Mini. So I'm looking at it going, that is insane. It is huge. I would bet that it's probably 1.5 to 2 feet tall and probably almost that deep. It's just a huge tower computer. It doesn't need to be that big. I honestly, for what they have in it, doesn't need to be that big. But it's big. So I have to spend probably a day at the church that week putting that in. And they told me they got monitors that I can hook up to it, which I haven't seen what they're giving me yet. But we'll see what
the old CRT TVs, hopefully.
There's a part of me that wouldn't doubt that.
Oh,
but, yeah.
When you turn it off, the image goes.
Mm-hmm. But
we'll have so much fun with that, Mitch.
I thought it would be hilarious to our presentation software has what's called quick screens in it, so you can just like throw something up on the screen, at a moment's notice. I want to put a blue screen in there somewhere so that we can just throw the blue screen up on. Be like, I don't know, you bought a Windows machine. This was not me. And just
like the hourglass, the hourglass, the 8-bit hourglass just frozen there.
Anyway,
that would be funny.
Yeah, give somebody a hard time. All right, let's get this thing wrapped up, and we'll be back when we get back here to record another episode, either next weekend or whenever we can get to it, sometime in the next 2 weeks. So if you want to know more about us, I do have we talked last week about the feedback button on the website. I did create that. and it is now on the page on my website for Inner Dialogue. So just go to innerdialogue.show, and that'll send you right to that page on my website. There is a link right there. You click that, fill out the form, and send that over to us. And that will go to my email address, which I can probably find a way to send it to you if you want it. But whatever feedback we get, if you got comments, questions, anything like that you'd like us to talk about, I would be totally down to do that. So feel free to hit that feedback button and fill out that form, and we'll get your question. So Cam, if the listeners want to get a hold of you, where are they going to go?
They can Venmo me money. No, they can CamBrennan.com.
All right. And you can find me at mitchcraig.online. Cam, looking forward to WWDC. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
And until then, I'll be editing podcasts on my iPad.
All right. Enjoy moving.
Sure thing.
Have a good week, sir.
You too.